nicely to the SNES-CD ROM system confidential documents. What's happening, guys? Gemma here and back again for another video, and today I want to broach the topic again of the Nintendo PlayStation prototype. Now, before we dive into looking at anything that I found, for those of you that don't know, Dan, the owner, with his dad Terry, they co-owned the prototype. I had a Skype session with Dan, and the interview and the full recording will be in the description and possibly in this corner. Now, there's been loads of people in the comments to that video that have been saying, oh, it looks fishy, it's fake. People have been messaging me on Twitter, oh, I smell a rat with this one. Oh, it was a two-part system, it was a... Right, I found out a couple of things that any of you guys could have found out. We're going to talk about patents, we're going to talk about these confidential documents that aren't really confidential as they're all over the internet. But at the time, they were confidential documents from 1993 by Nintendo of America. We're going to look at these and we're going to thread some things together that will add to the legitimacy that the prototype that's owned by Dan and Terry is real. My hunch all along is that it is completely real, but let's take a look. Oh, and also, I've also emailed Sony, Nintendo of Japan and Olaf, and I've really gone all out on this. I've been doing this for months. And now it's time just to put the video out, just to hopefully silence some people. Some of you may know the information, but anyway, without further ado, guys, let's take a look at some of the patent information. So I found this source over at Yabada, and again, this will be linked in the description, and I'll zoom in, but what we're seeing here is the European patent number. So common sense prevails here. You punch into Google, search European patent, which I did, and it did pull up this website, which again, copy, cut and paste the patent number. We can actually look at the patents, and you're going to be quite impressed with this, guys. I certainly was. So, video game computer provided with an optical drive filed in 1991, February of 91 by Sony in Japan. And what do we have here? We have a machine that looks incredibly like the prototype that Dan and his dad have. Here it is, guys. I mean, there's more information on this. I will link it in the description. You can check it out for yourself. Utilizes a 16-bit CPU and accepts either ROM game or cartridges via cartridge port. This is too good to be true, and certainly adds fuel to this argument that Dan's prototype is legitimate. So there we go, guys. That is the European patent number and evidence that in 1991 Sony filed the patent for this design. It looks incredibly similar to Dan's prototype. And we're also going to talk about the two-part prototype that people keep saying, well, the Nintendo PlayStation prototype was two parts. We're going to get to that. Now, there's a source online, and I'll link it, everything below, right at the bottom of the description. And Ken Kutaragi, if I pronounced that right, I'm reading this off my phone, former chairman and group of CEO Sony Computer Entertainment way back in 1993, he admitted that there were gaming systems called PlayStation, that both Super Nintendo cartridge and disc game, yeah, we know that. He also shared with us, but I'm not confirming or denying if this one, referring to Dan's prototype, I'm not confirming or denying that this one, somehow I think it's more fun to keep it a mystery. There are Japanese people that are laughing at us greedy Westerners, scratting for information, scratting to piece this puzzle together. Is it real? Is it fake? Again, my hunch is that it is completely real. I do think that this patent picture adds to the legitimacy of the claim. Now, I reached out to Nintendo of Japan. I reached out to Sony. Sony ignored me. Nintendo emailed me back. Now I'm just going to pull this email right up. Where are we? Let me find it. Gmail. And I absolutely found their response incredible, absolutely incredible, quite polite as well. So they said to me, "Dear Mrs. Perkins, thank you for contacting Nintendo. We are very sorry, but we can't comment on the SNES prototype." We can't comment. Bullshit, you can't comment, you just did. You know, if I sent them a picture of this and said, "Hey, yeah guys, is this the SNES, the Nintendo PlayStation CD prototype?" I'm pretty sure they'd say no, because it clearly isn't. But I'm speculating here. The fact that they said they can't comment, and there's additional people in Japan that can't/won't comment because they think it's better to leave this as a mystery. They know full well that this is real. They know absolutely full well. They just like greedy Westerners like me trying to kind of solve this mystery. Which brings us on nicely to the SNES-CD ROM system confidential documents, which is online. You can find this anywhere. It's a hefty document. It's 16 pages full of information. Now, I had somebody message me on Twitter saying that I don't think Dan's prototype is real, it's fake. The EGM magazine said it was a two-part system. Yes, it was a two-part system, and yes, this has diagrams in here, which I'll put pictures on screen, that suggest that it was a two-part system. So why is Dan's prototype only one? Here is the answer, and I've also spoken to the guy that's kind of found these. The answer is on the date right here, February 1st, 1993. Now, Sony and Nintendo parted in January 1992, so that relationship was completely over. The magazine clippings that all show a two-part system were 1993, therefore that couldn't have possibly have been anything to do with Sony and Nintendo. What these documents are the Philips Nintendo prototype. And I reached out to Steve Lynn, who scanned these and put them all online, and he thinks exactly the same. I'll probably put a picture of his email on screen so you guys know that I'm not bullshitting you. Now, this also, the diagram and the spec in here also match what EGM reported on in their crappy little magazine way back in 1993. So if for anybody that doubts Dan's prototype, well, yeah, it's a two-part system, you know, his is only one machine. His is the Sony Nintendo. This is Philips Nintendo. The two-part system is a Philips prototype. So that is completely out of the water, and the clue is right in the corner there, 1993. By then, Nintendo and Sony had completely parted, and it was game over. The Sony PlayStation was probably prototyping itself somewhere out in Japan at Sony headquarters. So that's what we've got right there. This is all about Philips and Nintendo, which I'm not fussed about. To my knowledge, there was never a prototype machine. It only existed in crappy concept art, as we can see from the pictures. So, Olaf Olafsson then. So, call me a stalker if one wants, but it's pretty easy. You punch his name into Google and you can see exactly where he works. I looked at what some of the email kind of setups were, and I guess his email address. Now, we all know that if you get a wrong email address, if you make a spelling error, you get a bounce back. Now, I sent him a picture of Dan's prototype and I said, you know, what's going on? Is this real? The bad news is he didn't reply. The good news is I didn't get a bounce back email, which surely suggests that I sent the right email to the right person, and he ignored me. Again, that's speculation. He has every right to ignore me. Who am I? But that just fuels my, you know, internal thoughts that this thing is completely real. The patent matches it. The document's right there. Blow this two-part system argument right out of the water. You know, Nintendo refused to comment. They said they can't really confirm that it's theirs. Honestly, guys, wake up. This is the real thing. And I've spoken with Terry, Dan's dad, and I'm in touch with them both. And when the time's right, they will give us the information we want. Until then, we're going to sit patiently, we're going to chill out, and we're just going to enjoy this hype train, because, you know, if that thing was in my possession, I'd be bouncing off the walls, I'd be shouting from Mount Everest. You know, fortunately, Dan's got his head screwed on. He has sat back and chilled and he's took it, you know, better than any of us would. You know, I mean, I'm a greedy Western gamer, and I'd like nothing more than to just sit with that thing in my hands, but that's never ever going to happen. So I just totally respect Dan and Terry for handling this really, really well. It's the rarest console in the world, and they're potentially sitting on six figures if it was sold, which I hope it isn't. God knows whose hand it could get into. But nonetheless, you know, we will get answers when the time is right. So guys, thank you very much for watching. This has been a bit of an ad hoc style video, and I've really enjoyed talking to you guys. Everything, the links to all the articles that I've used will be in the description. Please like, comment and subscribe, and check out Dan's original video with me on Skype. And guys, I'll see